Hi there, welcome back. And I just wanted to, someone asked me an interesting question the other day, and I just wanted to make a video about that. I thought it would be, a good topic. The question was, is it worth learning coding? Is it worth, making the effort to learn to do coding, even if you don't want to get a job as a professional developer? I think, the question came up, this was someone that is obviously interested in coding and programming, but, they have a job already, they already have a career, they're not looking to become a professional software developer, and I guess they were just wondering, is it really worth taking the time to learn programming if you're not really going to pursue a job in that field? And this is, I think, actually a pretty good question, and that's why I wanted to make this video about it, because I think, it's something that is worth discussing, something that's worth addressing. I mean, I get it. I mean, the internet is awash with videos of people talking about the things that you need to know and stuff to go out and get a job working at one of the, the FANG industries, Facebook, Amazon, Netflix, or Google, and that kind of thing. And many of them have really very good advice, on what you need to learn and what you need to do, if you want to stand a chance of getting a job working in one of those companies, in other words, to become, a professional software developer. And yeah, that's great. But what if you don't want to do that? What if you're not actually aspiring to be a software developer? Exactly. Is it still worthwhile? Is there any sense in which it's still worth bothering to learn coding or programming? And I would say the answer is unequivocally yes, absolutely. And if in your day-to-day life, be it work or your home life or anything like that, you spend any time at all doing repetitive or mundane tasks on a computer, especially if that involves in some way handling data, then it is totally worthwhile learning coding. Even sort of basic coding skills can help you, a great deal. I mean, let's just think of, an example. I mean, from the kind of work that I do, I spend time with people, working with people that have to process sometimes large volumes of numerical data, and often they get this data in the form of spreadsheets, Excel spreadsheets, right? And sometimes if they need to do statistical analysis on that data, for example, what they end up having to do is, maybe they're interested in, say, 2 or 3 columns from one spreadsheet, and they're interested in a couple of columns from another spreadsheet and a few rows, and maybe they don't want all of the entries from each column, and they end up having to do these complicated manual copying and pasting type operations to get everything together into one spreadsheet that's then in the right format that they can then use to do their, say, statistical analysis, if they're using, an analysis package, SPSS or whatever, I don't know. It doesn't matter. So that process, is very time consuming. And sometimes I've seen people spending hours and hours doing this kind of manual copying and pasting. And, not only does that waste a lot of time, but it's also extremely error prone. I mean, the probability of making a mistake, while you're doing some copy and pasting like that is quite high. Particularly, humans are actually not that good at repetitive tasks. We're not really so good at that. The human brain doesn't work so well just doing the same thing over and over again, and there's always a high probability that you're going to make a mistake. And if you're working in doing something important with this data, I mean, to be honest, those are the very worst kind of mistakes in some ways that you can make, because they may be significant. An error in the copy and pasting may have an impact, a statistically significant impact on your results, but at the same time it might not be big enough that anyone would ever notice it was there. And it could be mistakes like that in data sets could go unnoticed potentially for years, and that could be potentially really a big problem. Now, if you have the ability to, you just drop into Python to write a script to import those spreadsheets, to extract the particular items of data that you're interested in, and then push the output out into, in the format that you want, and that's immediately going to save you a lot of time. And also, of course, it's going to vastly reduce the chance of making errors. If you make an error in your script and you notice it, you only have to change the script and then run it again, right? You don't have to repeat the whole copying and pasting process again. So, you're really, potentially saving quite a lot of time there. and it's going to be more reliable. I think of another example, maybe closer to home, that could be related to your hobby. If you regularly look for certain types of information on the internet, there are plenty of tutorials out there on doing web scraping with Python, right? So tutorials on how to use various libraries that can go and pull data, numerical data or text-based data, whatever you like, off various websites, and can pull that together. I mean, suppose you have an interest in football scores, right? You could write a script that would scrape those football scores off the various websites and pull those together into a format that you can do something else with. And right there, you've saved yourself, a lot of time. When it comes to that sort of thing, I think having even rudimentary coding skills is or can be absolutely invaluable, and it can give you so much advantage. You might be thinking, well, okay, I don't need to do this very often, right? And maybe my spreadsheets, the data that I need to look at is not really very big, it's not a big deal. Is it really worth spending the time, investing the time to learn? If my coding skills are not that strong already, is it worthwhile investing the time to learn to do this just for this one problem? And I would say yes, of course, it still is, because once you've learned that, maybe in this one example it will perhaps take longer than it would have done to do it manually, but once you've learned that, you don't need to learn it again, right? Even if you ever need to do it again, it's going to be that much quicker for you to write a script. Okay, maybe if you don't remember all the details, you're going to remember enough, right? And then you're going to be able to put it together much more quickly. But also, once you've written a script to do something like that, you keep it. You don't throw that script away. So if you need to repeat the analysis on other data that comes in the same format, or you need to, for some reason, repeat the analysis on the same data, all you've got to do is run that script again, right? You don't need to do, and so, well, you're just saving so much time. I think this is one of the things that's really cool about coding and programming, and one of the things that I love about it is the ability, of that I can write code to do things on my computer that just make my life easier. That sometimes I think we get too wrapped up in this whole sort of arena of professional software development, and I mean that's really good and interesting and cool in its own right, but it's very different. There are really very specific requirements when you write software as a professional developer for very good reasons. But if you're just knocking together scripts and things for your own use, it's kind of a different field. It's like a sort of different area of programming completely, and things like that don't matter so much. I mean, of course your script has to work, but it doesn't have to be pretty. Chances are no one else is ever going to see it. So you don't need to worry so much, about following formal design patterns or anything like that. If you have an interest in that sort of thing, of course, absolutely do it. And I would always say it's worthwhile to learn to do things properly, but you don't necessarily have to. All you need to do is write your script, and you can run it, and you've saved yourself a loads of time, and you're winning already, right? Just from that. So, yeah, I think in answer to the original question, is it worthwhile learning coding, learning programming, even if you don't want to work as a software developer? I would say, like I say, if you have an interest in it and you spend, even any time at all doing repetitive tasks on a computer, absolutely yes, it is totally worth it. The logical follow-up question then to that is, well, what language should I learn? And without hesitation, for this kind of thing that we're talking about now, I would recommend Python. Python is amazing. It's pretty easy to learn. There's many tutorials out there about getting started with Python on YouTube and other websites, and it's easy to get going. There's a really big and an extensive community and of support around there. It's a good language, and it's an excellent scripting language. Python is really good for that. And there's libraries for everything. If you want to import spreadsheets, there's a library for that. If you want to plot graphs, there's a library for that. If you want to do statistical analysis, there's a library for that. Heck, even if you want to go hardcore and do machine learning stuff on your data, there are libraries for that. There's practically a library for everything. Python is totally the way to go for doing that kind of work. If that's what you're interested in, if you want to support your hobby, or you want to do something that's just going to give you a bit of an edge at work, by being able to automate tasks, Python 100% the way to go. That really would be my recommendation. And I think that answers the question. This is pretty much a summary of what I discussed with the person who asked me this, and I think they seem pleased with the answer, and I hope that they will go away and and learn some coding, and I hope it will be really useful to them. And likewise, if you're finding yourself now in that situation, you're maybe thinking about, oh, is it worthwhile learning to code? The very fact that you're thinking about it, the fact you're watching this video tells me you're probably a bit interested. I would just say go ahead and do it. Just jump in, right? Just get Python. It's free, it's open source, right? So just get it, play around with it. Don't worry so much about about doing everything professionally and learning about all these different frameworks and all of that kind of stuff. Just learn the basics, and that on its own can give you so much advantage in your life if you find you do these kind of things. I would just say just go for it. I think if you want to get a job as a professional developer, then absolutely you need to take things a bit more seriously about learning algorithms and data structures and all of that. But if you just want to make your life easier, not so important. Anyway, that's pretty much everything I wanted to talk about today. Let me know in the comments if you have any thoughts on what we've discussed. Let me know what you think of the slightly different format for videos from my tutorial series. I'm still going to be doing those, but I'm just trying out something a bit new with this. See how it goes. Let me know in the comments what you think. If you've liked this video, please remember to hit that like button, and please remember to subscribe to my channel so you don't have to miss any future videos. Anyway, look, it's been a pleasure. I hope I've managed to give some useful advice, and yeah, I hope at least some of you managed to take something useful away from this. And thank you very much for watching. I look forward to seeing you in the next video. Bye.